Hi everyone, thank you for coming to my presentation. My name is Luc Bourbeau, and today I'm going to be teaching you on my project. It's called Finding a New Home, What Factors Can Determine if Mars is a Viable Substitute for Earth. So, what first comes to mind when you think about Mars? Red rocks? Alien conspiracies? Maybe some ice from a long time ago? Well, I'm going to be honest with you, these terms aren't far off when describing the red planet, but none can match to the recent hype that SpaceX's plan to colonize Mars. But you may wonder why SpaceX wants to explore Mars at all. A survey conducted in 2008 by the Pew Research Center showed that 30% of U.S. adults say that dealing with global climate change should be a top priority for the President and Congress. Today, that number is around 52%, with the majority of them describing climate change as a crisis. Many of these individuals who describe climate change as a serious threat to human civilization have said years ago on multiple occasions that they believe we are unprepared for pandemics. The big reason for this, of course, was to preserve productivity instead of stalling it in the already fossil fuel reliant energy industry. And so, as you can imagine, during the worst pandemic of the 21st century, more people are beginning to talk about serious ramifications that are necessary to prolong the survival of our species. It just so happens that some of these people consist of Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, who are both looking to the stars for a second chance on humanity. By now, you're probably wondering what the relevance of this topic is to me and my project. Since I can quite look the opposite of an engineer, nonetheless an astronaut, it may come as a surprise, but this photo right here on the far right is actually me with a very close friend of my father's who is an investment banker at Morgan Stanley who worked on launching the Uber IPO. I've known this woman my entire life, ever since she worked alongside my father at Merrill Lynch, and she always kept me interested in finance. Today, I trade on the stock market, returning 300% profit over this past school year. And most would reasonably see this as a job, but for Rajvi and my father and I, it's more or less a hobby. I began participating in this tradition by learning about businesses when I was younger, and I was particularly drawn to manufacturing companies. The interest grew when I worked at the largest manufacturing company in the U.S. by volume, Twin V Powercats, out of Fort Pierce, Florida, which manufactures boats. I knew I wanted to learn more about manufacturing, and naturally, a good strategy when investing is to know every piece of information about a company before you buy stock in it. So I spent my entire senior year researching urban air mobility, and it led me into a deep interest into the aerospace industry. And from that interest, I didn't just want to read about these companies were doing, I actually wanted to experience it hands-on. I saw the translation from this program to urban air mobility with Uber and Boeing's efforts to create autonomous electric helicopters. When I heard of an engineering internship at Georgia Tech that works on electric motors, battery connectivity, and computer programming, I knew I had to try it, and that it would greatly translate to manufacturing. And with that, I developed a fully functioning Mars rover. And that's where my project ties into my presentation. Because if humanity is going to look to consider Mars as our new home, one day we need to make sure we have the right technology for exploring the planet. And here it is. It may appear lopsided, but I'm happy to say that it can accomplish all the tasks needed to navigate Mars. Although my robot does work, I was unable to complete certain mechanical modifications. My ultimate goal was to build a car that could jump in the air. Evidently, this did not happen due to a short supply of metal during COVID. And many challenges arose over the 3 weeks, like a surprise job offer from an application I sent in months prior, and all sorts of little things needed to get done during reopening. I unfortunately was unable to attend many hands-on learning lessons of this program. But after all, setbacks are a normal part of engineering, so I continued to work when I could. And it may not be pretty, but it gets the job done. Rovers like these will serve great utility in the future as a concept for unmanned exploration, not just on Mars, but here on Earth as well. And for that to happen, Earth will need to stay habitable. To end, I would like to say I'm grateful for the learning experience, but I wish I had more time to achieve my difficult yet necessary modification to successfully navigate Mars like many great rovers of the past. Thank you. And then here's my sources.
So first one here. So Chris wants to know, do you see any direct ties between your interest in urban mobility and the Mars rover you've made?
Yes, definitely. I would say one of the main things is the autonomous aspect and the electronic motors. And what we have in our Mars rovers is something that urban air mobility experts call DEP, or distributed electronic propulsion. and that translates to the wiring in the rover. Although elementary, it is directly applied to autonomous electric helicopters that Boeing is currently manufacturing.
Jennifer wanted to know how you um, you mentioned that you would like to make your rover jump. What plans would you have for actually making that happen?
So originally, I was gonna first start by making only have only two motors, and then completely taking apart the rover and making sure it could drive on its back, and then I would have two motors on each side that would be directed down, so that if anyone knows physics, the right hand rule would apply. The torque value would be going straight down, and I would have a gear system that would project a metal piece that would instantly put a force down on the ground and project it upwards.
Well, if you ever get around to giving it a go, take a video and send it to us. Last
Okay.
question coming in here wants to know any plans for the future? Maybe Georgia Tech on the horizon?
Possibly. I am currently enrolled at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach. I'll be going there next year and playing tennis there and majoring in mechanical engineering.
All right, let's see. I think Zion will probably have our last question for you, Luke. Any consideration of adding propellers or other flight implements to your rover?
Yeah, I actually, in my robotics class this year, I attempted to, we used a vise and we tried to make a flying car. Didn't end up working, but we attached propellers with a motor on top, and the motors are just way too slow for it. But I definitely would consider doing something like that.